What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well. Yes, before anybody says anything, I know my green screen software is messed up. I know that it's not removing the background right now. Don't know what's going on. I updated OBS and my face cam settings, I guess, just completely blew up, and I can't get them back to where the background removal actually looks not even good, like even manageable, even tolerable. Like everything I do either makes it flicker or be in black and white or be completely dark with this tiny little red outline of me or all those things at once somehow. I don't know what's going on, but I got videos to record. I got stuff to talk about. I'll fix the green screen effect later. So let's just go ahead and pretend that the background removal is working and move forward with the video. I know you guys like the face cam, so I wanted to leave it on even though the background removal isn't working, and I'll just keep scrolling so you guys can read what I've written regardless. All right, so we've got an interesting challenge today. We've got to talk about Jalen Milroe. So Jalen Milroe is a very polarizing, unique, and now very important player for the Seattle Seahawks. He was the third-round pick of the Seahawks, 92nd overall, quarterback from Alabama, and I did not have a very good reaction when we drafted him. I did not like him. I did not want him. I did not think it made sense to use a pick in really any point of day one or day two on a player like a Jalen Milroe. And I came away from that pick feeling like we had just kind of tricked off the pick we got when we traded Geno Smith. So I was left pretty unhappy here, but let's talk about him as fairly as I can. Let's try to be objective here. Let's try to understand Jalen Milroe the best that I can. I think it's going to be 4 videos today because I really want to spend some time talking about what I saw on the tape. And yeah, by the end of this, maybe we'll have a better idea of how to feel about him. Maybe at least you guys will better understand why I feel this way about him, because a lot of people seem a little bit confused or a little bit unsure on why I take such a dim view of this guy as an NFL quarterback. Let's talk about it. First, though, please like this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. Let's get into Jalen Milroe, new Seahawk. So, like I said, he is, in theory at least, or in practice for the moment, a quarterback. Alabama Crimson Tide. He's going to be 22 when the season starts. He's 22 right now, and he's going to be 22 in September. So still relatively young. Did no drills at the combine. He did some stuff at his pro day, but if you're just looking at the combine stuff, 6'1" and 7/8 inches, so just a hair under 6'2", so kind of short, but not. I mean, we've seen shorter quarterbacks have success, right? He's not Russell Wilson, he's not Drew Brees, he's taller than those guys. 217 pounds, so technically speaking, he's a little bit lighter than the typical quarterback, but he's actually got a pretty good ratio of height to weight. He's pretty stout, so it's not any kind of a problem, right? We're not talking about Bryce Young here, or we're not talking about Matt Corral. We're talking about a guy who is 217 pounds, workable. Short arms, 30 and 5/8 inches, so very short arms by quarterback standards. And 9 and 3/8 inch hands, which is okay. It's below average, but it's okay, 35th percentile. However, there is a lot of reason to believe his hands are actually a lot smaller than that. This is the combine measurement, but for whatever reason, his hands were measured, I think, like a month before the combine, and they were sub 9 inches. It's not normal for your hands to grow half an inch in a month. So something's going on there, and I'll just go ahead and say it. I think that his hands are much smaller than this, and I think his hands are small to the point of it being a big problem. Anyway, this video is going to be Jalen Milroe by the numbers. So let's just go ahead and talk about the numbers. This will give us a base to start with when we start moving into discussions of him as an actual prospect and player and what he does on the football field. So 2021, there's not much to say. He only played 4 games. He played 33 snaps. He was a backup. Didn't really get on the field that much. 3 completions, 7 attempts, 41 yards, a touchdown. Yeah, he did hit 1 big-time throw, got sacked a couple times. None of this really means anything. Ran for 57 yards on 15 attempts. So he was kind of being used as that running quarterback more so than a thrower. But we got no real sample size here, so that's whatever. 2022, things get a little more interesting. He's still not the starter, right? He's still not the starter, but we are starting to collect data here. Almost 200 snaps taken in that Alabama offense in 8 games. 31 of 53, which is 58.5%. Not very good. About 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So there's at least something to work with here. It's not great, but at the very least, it's a start. 5.6 yards per attempt, pretty low. Average depth of target, kind of low. 8.4 for him anyway, it's low. 8 turnover-worthy plays, which is really not okay. And it tells you a big reason why he was a backup. 3.21 time to throw. Let's keep that number in mind as we move forward here. Took off and scrambled on designed passing plays 12 times. Ran for 260 yards, so you can see him being a weapon with his legs. He averaged 8.5 yards per attempt. But again, it's not a huge sample size. And the massive number of turnover-worthy plays, we're talking about like 1 every 25 snaps, is pretty insurmountable and pretty indefensible. 8 turnover-worthy plays in less than 200 snaps, that's a bad sign. Again, it's not a big enough sample size to really panic yet, and this was years ago anyway, but that was definitely something that jumped off the page. Especially because, let's go to 2023, and this is where we start really caring, because now he's a starter. Now he's playing almost every snap. Now he's actually the guy at Alabama. This was Nick Saban's final year. 13 games, so he played in all the Alabama games this year. Alabama did make the playoff this year. 777 snaps, so full season's worth. 187 out of 284, so that's 65.8% completion. Decent, workable. 2,834 yards. I mean, he is a dual threat quarterback, so you're not going to expect massive passing numbers, but it's fine. 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 10 yards per attempt, so he's definitely pushing the ball down the field. 13.4 average depth of target, so he's trying to hit the big one, man. He's going for it all a lot. And I like that in my quarterback. I don't know if it's great for the current state of the NFL, but that's something that changes every now and then anyway, so who cares about that? QB rating, college QB rating, very high, 172.2, 27 big-time throws. And PFF, it's a little bit abstract, admittedly, what a big-time throw is, but PFF has a big-time throw as a play that is especially accurate, usually into some kind of tight coverage, and often goes for a big gain. So I know that sounds very abstract and kind of subjective, but it is a fun stat that PFF keeps, and I think it does provide some value. Receivers dropped 8 passes this year, which on 284 attempts I think is actually a pretty reasonable. It's not stellar, but I think as a quarterback, that's just the cost of doing business. And he had 11 turnover-worthy plays. So on far more snaps, he had just a few more turnover-worthy plays. That's that shows marked improvement there. Took 44 sacks. We're not thrilled about that. That's not very good. 44 sacks is telling me that he's doing something wrong, especially when his time to throw is 3.44 seconds. That's what you typically see from these scrambling quarterbacks. They end up running around so long back there, they end up having a really long time to throw, but they also, sometimes those plays go the wrong way. 55 scrambles, so he's got a pretty decently high rate of taking off to run on planned dropbacks. We have 161 rushes, 531 yards. That sounds bad, right? 3.3 yards per attempt sounds bad. Remember, this is college. College counts sacks as rushes and lost yards on sacks as negative rushing yards. So understand that when you see that number, you're going to think, oh, this guy can't run at all. 3.3 yards per attempt is nothing. It's not that simple. He is an effective runner. He just takes a lot of sacks, and sometimes those sacks are big and makes it look a lot worse than it is. 12 rushing touchdowns, so he's a big threat in the red zone, big threat to find the end zone on long plays as well. Snaps, almost 400 passing plays. So that gives you an idea of the ratio of snaps to passing plays to scrambles. 55 scrambles on almost 400 passing plays. So takes off and runs a good amount more than 10% of the time. 77 runs and 303 run blocks. And remember, run blocking in this context, because obviously, you see run blocking on the snap counts on the other years as well. Remember, that's just a play where he hands the ball off. He's very rarely, if ever, actually run blocking. It's just listed as a run blocking snap because technically he is not the one with the ball and it's a running play, so therefore he's run blocking even if he isn't. Graded out very well this year. 88.7, 78.1 passing grade, 81.8 rushing grade. So he is playing well. He gets Alabama to a playoff spot. They almost win that game. And things seem to be going fairly well. I will say I watched him a little bit in 2023. I was not a big fan of what I saw on a technical level, but there were some promising signs. This is clearly a talented, capable player on some level. But then we go to 2024. Let's talk about 2024 here, because few things happen. And frankly, most of them are not very good. Okay, so 2024, first of all, he plays the same number of games and has basically the same number of snaps. So we're looking at roughly equivalent sample sizes here, 778 snaps total. Throws the ball a little bit more. Remember, now he's in Kalen DeBoer's offense, so he throws the ball more, 205 completions, 319 attempts. Completion percentage dips a little bit, 64.3. Completion percentage gets pulled down a little bit. Yards more or less the same as the previous year, literally 10 yards more on significantly more attempts. So that's not great. We don't really get enthused about that. 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So that gets a lot worse. 8.9 yards per attempt, 9.9 average depth of target. So he's not pushing the ball down the field as much, which is theoretically okay. But it does highlight the fact that he's not having as much efficiency throwing the ball. QB rating takes a big dive to 148.8. 18 big-time throws, significantly less than the previous year on more attempts. And remember, big-time throws are not just big plays. They are good throws into tight windows that sometimes, but not always, turn into big plays. So there's no other way to put it. As a passer, Jalen Milroe regressed big in 2024. And some of that had to do with the fact that he was changing offenses. But at the same time, I think it highlights the fact that he was in an offense that put more onus on him to actually throw, and he struggled. Now, there were a lot of drops for that Alabama team. They averaged more than one drop a game. But some of those drops are because the quarterback is Jalen Milroe, and we'll talk more about that later. I will say this. He had 10 turnover-worthy plays, which is actually one less than the previous year. That does tell you he got a little bit unlucky with these 11 interceptions, right? Like, if you've got more interceptions than turnover-worthy plays, you're getting the short end of the stick from your teammates in all likelihood. You're getting shafted by luck. He took far fewer sacks, and he had far shorter time to throw. These are good things. 23 sacks in 13 games, 2.88 time to throw shows on a few levels he is improving. 24 scrambles, so he does a lot less taking off and running on passing plays. Probably the influence of the DeBoer offense. I like that. Runs 168 times, so he's still running the ball about the same amount of times. He does so more effectively overall, averaging 4.3 yards per attempt. And remember, that includes the sacks, so the actual effectiveness of him as a runner is significantly better than that. 726 rushing yards, 20 rushing touchdowns, so monster threat to find the end zone, like a Sean Alexander, which I guess is fitting. about 400 passing snaps, 131 run snaps, and 250 run block snaps. Again, not really run blocking. Graded out well, but again, there is a little bit of regression from 2023. 87.4 is not a big step down from 88.7, but it is a little bit of a step down. I will say that compared to usual, Alabama was not completely loaded in 2024. They had Tyler Booker, who was obviously a top 12 pick in the draft at guard. They had Parker Brailsford, who will probably be the top center in next year's draft class on the offensive line. Other than that, I don't know if it's great up there, or rather was great up there. And at receiver, you've got Ryan Williams, who is awesome, but he's 17, and Bernard, who is also awesome, but he's not exactly, the days of Alabama trotting out, even like 2 years ago when they had Jermaine Burton. I don't even think they had a draft entering receiver close to that level. So it wasn't a super team like Alabama sometimes puts together. I get that, but the regression is notable. So if you put together his career totals, you've got 38 games, about 1,800 snaps, 64.3 completion percentage on 663 attempts, 6,000 passing yards, 45 touchdowns, 20 picks, 9.1 yards per attempt, 11.2 average depth of targets. Average depth of target. So he is a guy who likes to push it down the field. He is a guy who likes to go for bigger plays, which, hey, I can get behind that, but it's got to be effective, of course. QB rating 156.8, it's fine. Big time throws 46. Little bit, I don't know. I'd have to look at some other quarterbacks to see how their BTT compares, but 46 on 663 attempts is leaving me a little bit wanting. A lot of drops, though. Well, maybe not a lot of drops, but a decent number of drops, especially in that last season, 25 total. 29 turnover-worthy plays in his ledger. Took 74 sacks, most of which were in his first year starting under Saban. 3.17 seconds time to throw. I mean, that's not going to really cut it that well in the end. Well, okay, I should take that back. Jalen Hurts gets away with that. And Milroe could probably do a lot of the things that Hurts does, I guess. 93 scrambles. Ran the ball 375 times for almost 1,600 yards. 33 touchdowns. And yeah, it's a career. It's a pretty reasonable career, especially given the fact that we're talking about a guy who only got to start for 2 seasons. I think there are some issues here, but again, when you're talking about evaluating a player, any player, but especially a quarterback, it's not so much about the numbers, especially when he's playing in an offense that he's not going to play in the pros against opponents who mostly don't make the pro game. It is about what is he actually doing out there and how does it translate. We'll talk about that in a couple hours.